I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Mary E. Knippel to talk about her article in the September-October issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Mary, welcome. Thanks for doing this with me.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I just love this community and the women who are attracted to it. We're all in alignment.
I love doing it. I really do. I get to meet amazing women like you who live on the other side, the other coast from me, and I probably would have never connected with. So, before we talk about your article, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Well, I am originally from Minnesota, so I'm transplanted to California because of my husband's work. But I've always had an affinity for writing. I started keeping a journal when I was 11, so I've always known that the answers for me were at the end of a pen, and I believe that we all have a story that the world needs to hear.
I have probably asked you this before, but if I did, I don't remember the answer. Do you still have any of those journals?
Oh, absolutely.
With all of them?
Uh,
Wow.
pretty much. I have quite a few, and especially the one that I used to hide from my brother when I was 11.
You have the one when you first started. I can't imagine what it's like to go back and read your 11-year-old thoughts. It must be
Oh yeah,
so
it's cute on TV last night. Wow, earth shattering.
right, right. But still, it's just sweet, you know? And there were probably some days when maybe somebody made fun of you or something, that were hurtful, but I would love to know what my 11-year-old was up to back then. But
And
my mother got into my diary one time, um, and I could tell because I think I did something that I could tell if she opened it.
oh,
And I think she found the key. I was 10. And so I made up stuff and wrote it in there that I knew would upset her, but she couldn't tell me because she couldn't tell me she read my diary. So I tortured her like that for quite,
oh.
quite a while. Anyway, that's another story. That's probably more for my therapist couch. Well, anyway, your article is called Share Your Light. So let's start with talking about what does sharing our light look like?
Well, it means that you are vulnerable and transparent because you have had these life experiences that have changed you, and to be able to talk about, where I was and where I am now and how that experience has brought me wisdom and given me insight into being who I am and having the tools that I have to be able to help others. That's one of the reasons why I knew that writing made a difference for me and how writing can make a difference for others, and being able to draw out the stories that the world is waiting for. That's something that I love being able to do.
And you do that really well, and you work with other women to help them. You shine a light on them so they can then shine their light, kind of get comfortable with it, because I'm always about putting women in the spotlight, and it's so many women are uncomfortable being seen. Why do you think that is? Let's go back, what's your story around that?
My story around that. Well, I I had, as I said, I started keeping a journal when I was 11, but I wasn't encouraged to be a writer because that wasn't practical.
Hmm.
I wasn't an outstanding student, so there really wasn't a reason for me to go to college even. I didn't want to be a teacher. That wasn't something that I was aspiring to. I definitely wasn't going into medicine where I needed to have all of those classes. And so I got a 1-year secretarial certificate. So that was what I was encouraged to do.
Hmm.
And I started, helping others articulate themselves, by being a secretary. And the executives that I worked for, their reports and their memos shined because I could go in there and make the engineers speak real English.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Understood. And so that was how I got started. I persevered in, I knew writing was important for me, and everyone has a story that's uniquely theirs. To
Hmm.
be able to, know, shine, uh, as the brilliant person that they are and how they are meant to have an impact on the world.
And you mentioned in your article, and it's something that you and I have talked about, it's a universal story for women, especially women of certain decades, that we were taught to keep our light covered up under a bushel. I think you start out with that quote, don't keep your light under a bushel or something. I think that's from the Bible somewhere. There's a piece of that I think might be a Bible quote.
And it could
We
be.
were taught to settle down, be good. Children should be seen and not heard. It was really girls could be seen and not heard, because I remember boys just getting to be boys, just being to rowdy and center of attention, and girls were supposed to be polite. And I remember my mother telling me I was getting too full of myself. And so we were taught that it wasn't okay to shine our light or share our light, right? We didn't
Or,
even have a light. We didn't even have a light.
or speak up and
Speak
or
up, yeah.
be be bossy and say, well, I want to, this is important to me. And how, well, you're you have this expectation, you know.
Mhm.
And I remember when I had to write a paper about what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I had said, I wanted to write, I wanted to be on stage, I wanted to travel. And oh, well, that's not realistic.
Mhm.
You, and besides, you're so good at being in the background and doing, being the support team for everybody else.
Mhm.
I volunteered to write for newsletters. I wrote for the school newspaper, being on the staff and making others look good and them shine. And that is something that so many women have, just that they believe that their story is ordinary, and that breaks my heart,
Mhm.
because we have something that is uniquely our own. No one else has lived what we have lived, and we know the story from the inside out. Nobody else can share that because they don't have our perspective. And that is what is so important, that I want every woman to know, that you have something that is uniquely your own. And when they realize that, it helps them sit up a little more and
Mhm.
be able to say, oh, uh, I did that, and it helped me realize that I made a choice for me. I decided that this is how I was going to do things differently, because I didn't fit in the box. I didn't
Mhm.
fit in the pattern where they said, well, this is where I see you, and I'm comfortable with you being there. And we're like, I'm not comfortable being there because I want more. I
Yeah.
want to step out and do more. And that's why when I went to college at 30, the rest of my family was just like, what are you doing? You have a perfectly good job as a secretary, and why do that? And I had an advisor who was a retired newspaper editor, and he said, well, you're just a bored housewife, because he knew I was married. He knew I'd been working as a secretary. And I said, no, I can do more than just be a secretary. And that's why I persevered and got my degree and kept writing for the groups that I had already been writing for, and stepped into being able to do more, working for a monthly newspaper and having a column, and being able to go out and do interviews and ask questions that weren't on a list, that came from, well, that's interesting. Let's follow that where it's going, rather than check this off. This is what we need to talk about, because
You had free reign pretty much then.
pardon me?
You had free reign then to do your own interview the way you wanted to do it and then write it
I
in.
I did. I
Yeah.
had a 800-word limit, but nothing more than that.
Mhm. That was really, there was your dream starting to come true right there,
It
wasn't
absolutely
it?
was.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope there are young women watching because what you just said, he told you you're just a bored housewife. I want young women to know, if they don't know already, that it was perfectly okay for people to say things like that to women back in the day. It hasn't been that many years ago, really, when you think about it. In the history of the world, it hasn't been that many years ago. And so I think it's easy to take some things for granted that we've always been able to go out and share our light, shine our light, be the light. And yeah, we've always been able to, but there's always been some roadblocks. And there's some women that were just stronger than others that went out or didn't have the conditioning that wasn't quite as heavy, maybe. And they just broke loose and, different personality type. And there's always women who are able to break loose. We've got all kinds of examples through history. And they were considered, the bad girls, the,
Oh yeah, that I wasn't
yeah.
being the good girl
Yeah.
because I said I want this and it's important to me and I'm going after it.
Yeah.
And there was pushback, but I didn't get pushed back.
Ooh, love that. Love that. So this is what you talk about when you talk about telling our stories, you tell your story and it gives other women opportunities to see themselves, that it's possible for them. They may not do it the same way you did it. They might do it for the same reasons, but they see that it's possible. And that's why you're such a proponent and such a champion of women telling their stories, because you're somebody somewhere that needs to hear somebody's story, right? I'm sure you
Absolutely.
have a ton of examples of that.
Well, yes. I mean, I gave one of my examples, that I said I was going to go to college. I
Mhm,
was going to get a degree. And no, you don't necessarily have to have a degree to be a writer. It was important to me.
mhm,
And it was important for me to do that so that I could explore more. I could have the college experience. I mean, I got a student loan so that I could spend spring quarter in London. And there again, my family was just like, but you're married. What's your husband going to do? And I was
oh
like,
dear.
make your own peanut butter sandwiches. At that point, we weren't parents. And we were on the adoption list, which is another story. And it wasn't imminent that we were going to get placement. And I said, this is my chance. He can make his own peanut butter sandwiches while
And
I'm
what year was that, Mary?
that was 1980.
1980.
And in 1984, I graduated from college and and we adopted a 6-week-old baby girl. And but that was in the spring. And then in the fall, I started part-time work for the magazine, for the newspaper. And so that year, I had my dream life.
Yes,
I was a
wow.
mom, and I was a working mom, doing what I had dreamt of my entire life, writing and being paid for it.
Wow. I remember, it seems odd to me too that in 1980 people would be questioning what was your husband going to do. But I remember the first time I decided to go away for a week by myself to the North Carolina beach, just alone. And of course, my husband was on board full time with it. He was, encouraging me to go. But when he told his mother, and this was about 1995, she wanted to know if everything was okay, because that was so foreign. I understand it was so foreign to her. They couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we're going, maybe I'm taking you a little off the path here, but it's all about the suppression of our light. That's how we find who we are, getting off alone and quiet time and being in nature and just all of those ways that things have a breaking loose inside of us, I think, when we put ourselves in different situations. So, what does it look like when a woman is truly in that space of sharing her light? What happens?
I think she lights up from within. I think there's a confidence in her. There's a that she draws people to her because she carries herself with this this joy
Mm,
of knowing who she is and knowing that she has something that others are needing.
yeah,
Not just, oh yeah, I think this will be good. It's there's that spark. that she can give to somebody else.
Mhm. You're getting emotional
And
about
I
it.
get emotional about this because
I love how much you care, though. You care so
there's
much about
so many women
women.
who just they're they've been told so often that it doesn't matter what your story is.
Mhm.
And especially if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you get in the business lane and you stay with that business and you don't talk about you why. You
Mhm.
don't talk about how you got to be passionate about what that is. And you can't separate the transformational soul story that made you who you are with the why you are in business, why you're compelled to be doing what you're doing. That it's so interconnected. It's like you can't take an in breath and not do an out breath.
Mm.
It's part of the flow.
And if it isn't, maybe it's not the right thing for you, right?
Right. Yeah, yes. If you have just the way be a secretary, you'll have a job and
Benefits, because
it fits it from
mhm.
my perspective over here as someone who has your best interest at heart. We love you and we don't want you to get hurt by trying to do something that could be hard and you could fail at,
Mhm.
but it also could be how you grow. It's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
And and so it's like don't give up on your dreams.
I've always thought that it is well-meaning people who hold us back, but I'm not so sure I buy that quite as much anymore. It's fearful people. It's often fearful people, and they're fearing for us. I think they can't imagine themselves ever doing anything like that. So
They're
it
just
seems almost wrong. It's not just that we might get, it's wrong, you know?
they're so uncomfortable
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
we are becoming something that they don't recognize, that
Hmm.
they can't not not necessarily control maybe, but that they that we are evolving in a way that they can't imagine.
Yeah. And there can be ridicule. There can be, it's never
Oh,
going to work.
oh
What are
yeah,
you doing? And there's some jealousy that comes along with that
yeah.
sometimes too. Like,
Who do
how
you
come
think
you get to do
you
that?
are?
Yeah.
Mhm,
Who do you think you are, young lady? Yes.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember going to a family reunion just a few years after I started speaking and doing, I think I'd already started the community, and I had some cousins there. I really didn't see them that often, so we weren't that close. And they were asking me what I was doing, and I was telling them, how come you get to do that? I said, what do you mean? They said, well, people pay you to talk. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes. And said, well, we all talk. Nobody pays us to talk. And I said, did you ever ask them if they would pay you to talk? I mean, just feel really, and I could tell that it was these wheels were turning, and they were going, how did that happen? And
Happen.
why didn't it happen to me? And I was always really, and I always used to hold myself back some, so I wouldn't be all that. Because I was excited. I mean, it was struggle. I wasn't like making $1 zillion either. But it was a struggle. But I was so happy that I didn't have to go to that job, even though I had a very nice career with all kinds of nice benefits. But I was so happy that I didn't have to punch the clock and do all of that stuff. But I would dim my light so I wouldn't be too much of all that because it might make them feel bad.
Mhm.
And I learned that from my mom.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
right. Oh, you're just lucky. Right place at the right time.
Uh,
Oh, yeah. The overnight success. I've been a journalist for 40 years. I started writing when I was 11, 73 years. I know. So I've been writing since for 60 years. It's always been what lights me up.
yeah. Yeah.
And I can't help it. Okay. I have I have a friend who is another speaker, and she said something on stage that, "Oh, I'm not a writer," and she looked down because I was going to be on the stage pretty soon, and she's like, "Oh, Mary's here. I can't say that." Nobody can say that in my presence, that
Mhm.
you're not creative and you're not a writer, because we all have that. Whether we choose to tap into it or not, we all have that. And writing doesn't require that we go sit at the feet of a guru. It doesn't require that we buy a bunch of equipment. It requires that we be curious about, well, what is it that I have that the world needs to hear from me?
Mm,
It's my piece of the universal tapestry that will
mm.
complete this beautiful picture that the world, that is the world, that is the universe. But we all have that thread that enhances the picture.
I love how you said that, universal tapestry. And also this curiosity is such a huge piece of it, right?
Yes.
To be curious, but as children, curiosity was sometimes frowned upon as well because it gets you in trouble. You're always into something. You're always asking all those questions I can't answer. That my mom was like that. She would tell my other family members, I don't know what to do with her. She just asked me, she's always asking me stuff. And when she didn't give me good answers, I started to tell her as a little kid, I don't think that's the answer. I want a better answer than that. And so I think she just didn't know what to do with me. And I think that happened to a lot of women in our age group. I know I'm a bit older than you, but I think in that age group that we were that first generation of women who were girls who knew we were destined for something else. Not that there weren't other women from different decades doing that, but I think there was a bunch of us at that time who were itching to do something, to be something different from what we had seen around us.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I could talk about this for days, but let's see. I have a question for you now. What would you say to a woman who is watching this or maybe reading your article and she knows I'm gonna divert for a minute. Do you know the book Simple Abundance by Sarah
Oh,
Baum Bosnick?
I've worked with Sarah. I'm trained to use.
Really?
I could
I did
do.
not know that.
Yes, yes, I absolutely adore Simple Abundance. Um, Most days I read one of the essays. Yes. So
I
where are
haven't,
you going?
well, I haven't done it that much lately, but I still have the book. It's all, I bought it the day I saw her on Oprah
Mhm.
when it came out. She did a second book that wasn't nearly as well received, I guess. It wasn't nearly as popular. It was a different kind of book. It didn't have all the daily things, but it was called Something More.
Mhm.
And it was about excavating your life and digging and finding that something more, that there's a stage in our life when we get to that place that says, I think there's something more or something. I like something more better than something else, something more.
Something
And
more.
so a woman, I think that's what sometimes happens with women is we get to that place that we're kind of she called it divine discontent. I always love that. So what would you say to a woman who's starting to feel that just unrest almost and she knows there's something more, but she doesn't know what, and she doesn't know what to do about it. What would be a first step for her?
Absolutely start journaling.
Was that
That
involves a pen and paper? Yes.
pen and paper,
Mhm.
have a conversation with yourself. Make an appointment every day for at least 5 minutes to just let your hand move across the page and ask the question, what is it? What's my something more?
Mm,
What what do you have to tell me today? And be curious and be willing to listen to what your soul is ready to tell you. And that's absolutely the first thing that I tell anybody. And that I don't know that I have a story and I wouldn't know what to say. This is what you do. You start showing up on the page and be willing to hear what your soul is going to tell you. And you will be amazed at how fast 5 minutes goes. And
mhm,
then and when you're consistent, you let the universe know, well, she's ready for more, tell her more. And then my first memoir, The Secret Artist, came out of my journal entries after my second breast cancer experience. You don't know where those journal entries are going to go, but
yeah.
first they're for you to get in touch with who you are and what more you can do.
Mhm. Perfect answer. Thank you. Well, how can viewers find out more about you?
Oh, I'd love to have them visit my website, maryknippel.com, and to uh, because I have virtual workshops. Yeah, we are opposite coasts because of COVID. I am on virtual. I'm able to do writing workshops online. I also have the co-author book, The Written in Her Own Words, and we're looking for more co-authors. And in that sense, I really love to be able to help the women discover the story. So you don't have to know what I'm putting in the co-author book. We'll help you find that. And that that is my mission, is to help women's voices be heard, to be able to um, discover and explore, to go deeper into your transformational story. And what I'm currently launching is the Soul Story Sanctuary, where we meet on a regular basis so that you can be with other women seekers to find your story, and we all hold each other in this sacred space to be able to discover what is yours and go deeper into how can I articulate that and take it out into the world. Because you may have um, a book inside you that you've been dreaming of and you weren't quite sure, well, how do I go about this? That's that's something that I love to be able to talk to people about, because I know everybody has, oh, I think I have a book. Well, I know you have a book. I can answer you there. Whether you are curious enough and willing to take the next step to start that on that journey, no, that's up to you. But
Mhm.
I already know that you have a story and the world is waiting for it.
Oh, the world is waiting for it. So be bold, be brilliant, be generous. The world needs your story. And you're right, you could decide to you could write a story, a chapter, only a little bit, and you're still getting it out there. You don't have to do a whole book. So I think some people may find that daunting. Oh, but I wouldn't even know where to start. That's why you're here, Mary. So when people go on your website, is there a spot where they can sign up to have a chat with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They go to the contact page, maryknippel.com/contact, and set up a time to chat.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If you're watching this live, I will have the link to Mary's other information about the Soul Sanctuary that she's starting, and that will go in there as soon as we get off this Zoom call. I wanted to also just tell everybody that you share more than what we've talked about. We talked about some other things, but there's more stuff to read in Mary's article. So the link to that is in the text of this video as well. And when you're on the On Purpose One magazine page, check out our archives and go back to the July, no, the May, June issue. And Mary has an article on soul. You heard talking about soul stories. She has an article about what's your soul stories that will give you some more information and another angle that she takes us through. So, Mary, as we wrap this up, what was your final thought for us?
Wear your sunglasses, keep them handy because you're so bright. You keep shining, telling your story. The world needs it. And you have something unique that the world is waiting to hear.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom in the magazine. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us here. And I love that you're such an integral part of the On Purpose on the global community. And it's been, I think I saw where I'd interviewed you in 2021, I believe it was, for something. I didn't realize it'd been that many years already. Time kind of slowed down there for a while, didn't it? But I'm really grateful to you, Mary, for always showing up and just shining your light,
Uh,
shining your light and being an example for everyone else. So thank you, whoever's watching this. Thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Women Global Community and Magazine, you can go to my website, which is opwgc.com. That is also in the text of this video. Mary's website is in the text of this video, as well as some other links for her. And for more interviews with amazing women who are living their life on purpose, please check out our YouTube channel. Some of you are watching this on our YouTube channel. Some of you aren't. You're watching it on Facebook. But go over there, and that link is also in the text of this video. So thanks for watching.
Thanks, Ginny.